If someone sleeps with your wife, you hate them. If that someone is your own father, you don't just hate, you unravel. I didn't scream, I didn't fight. I just stood there at the bedroom door, watching him pull the sheets back up and say, "You should go. There's no room for you here anymore." 6 months later, my wife was dead. Her baby was born dark-skinned. And I began to write this, not to ask for forgiveness, but because silence was starting to kill me. My name's Daniel. I'm 35 now. I was born and raised in a tiny town tucked against the Cascade Range in Oregon. Quiet, cold, and full of things people never say out loud. My dad's name is George, a retired soldier, strict, tight-lipped, with eyes deep like a dry well. You'd never guess what he was thinking. My mom died young from cancer. Since I was 14, he raised me alone. We weren't close, but we weren't at odds either. Maybe because I always tried to live right. I used to think I knew him, thought he was straight up, simple. But everything I thought, it was all wrong. It started falling apart when I met Emily. Emily was my wife, or used to be. We met in Portland, where I worked for a civil construction company. She was a fresh interior design grad, starting as an intern. The first day I saw her, I thought, this is the kind of girl who could throw a guy off course. Not because of her looks, though she had those, but her eyes. They were the kind that knew you were hiding something. Like they could see the softest part you tried to bury. She was gentle, calm, quiet, but she made me feel at peace. I'd dated plenty before, but Emily was different. Something about her made me want to bring her home, introduce her to Dad, marry her. It was instinctual. I loved her. Fast. Deep. And when I told her I wanted to take her home to meet my family, she went quiet for a long time before nodding. I didn't know then that her nod was full of conflict. The first day I brought her to my hometown, Dad met us at the bus station. I still remember how he looked at her. His eyes froze for a second, like he'd just seen something old come back. I didn't think much of it. He'd been alone for nearly 20 years. I figured he was just surprised I'd brought home someone so pretty. The house I grew up in, a weathered 2-story cabin by a small lake, still smelled of damp pine, motor oil, and the wind rattling the eaves. Emily called it cute, peaceful. Dad just watched her, silent. That night at dinner, they barely spoke. I rambled on about work, coworkers, Portland weather. Emily smiled, served me food. Dad sipped his whiskey slow. Something felt off between them, but I couldn't pin it down. Guess I was too caught up in loving her. We stayed 3 days. When we left, Dad didn't walk us to the station. He stood at the door, shook Emily's hand, gripped it hard, staring right at her, then turned back inside. I thought he didn't approve. Emily just smiled faintly and said, "I think your dad's seen a lot." "Yeah, too much." A year later, I proposed. We got married in the summer. Small wedding, some close friends from Portland, a few distant relatives from back home. Dad sat at the front table, wearing an old suit, no smile, no speech. When I asked him to say something, he stood, nodded, and said, "Congrats." That was it. After the wedding, he told me he'd moved to the cabin deeper in the woods, the one he used to escape to on weekends, alone. I asked, "You gonna stay there for good?" He shrugged. "Give you two some space." I was touched. Thought he was doing right by us. Looking back now, maybe he was just clearing the way for something worse. We moved into his big house, the one I grew up in, now our home. It started like a dream. Mornings with soft music, evenings holding hands by the lake. Emily would stand on the second-floor balcony letting her hair catch the breeze. I'd look up from the yard and think, God, how'd I get this lucky? But I didn't know that when I left for work, that house stopped being just ours. I'm not the jealous type, maybe because I figured people only cheat if you treat them bad. And I loved Emily enough to never think she'd look elsewhere. Turns out, if it had just been some random guy, it wouldn't have hurt this much. I don't remember exactly when things went off the rails. Maybe it was the first time I saw Dad's old leather shoes on the front step, after he'd moved out. I called him, asked why he didn't stop in. He said, flat, Forgot 'em there. But then a week later, those shoes were back. Same spot. Then a half-smoked cigar in the balcony ashtray. Then a whiff of men's cologne in the living room, a scent I'd never worn. Emily started dodging me when I asked about her day. Always the same. Went shopping, cleaned, read a book. But her eyes wouldn't meet mine. One time I came home early. Construction got rained out. Didn't call ahead, wanted to surprise her. The house was dead quiet. She'd said she'd be home cleaning. Door was locked but unlatched. I pushed it open. Downstairs was dark. Then I heard it. Soft, broken laughter drifting down from upstairs. I climbed the steps, quiet as I could. The bedroom door was cracked open. I saw Emily's shadow standing there, wearing a loose white shirt, not mine, drying her hair in front of the mirror. And behind her, in the reflection, was Dad. He was on the bed, propped against the pillows, a glass of whiskey in hand. His shirt unbuttoned nearly all the way. I couldn't breathe. She didn't see me yet. Not until I said, "Hey babe, I'm home." She spun around, startled. "Dad." He just looked at me, calm as hell, like I was the one barging into their space. No panic in his eyes. Just this shamelessness I can't even name. Emily rushed over, stammering, "You're back early. I was just talking with your dad." I looked into her eyes, and for the first time I saw fear. Not of getting caught, but because I'd seen too much. I didn't sleep that night. Sat in my truck, parked a few hundred yards from the house, my head spinning. Half of me wanted to believe I'd misread it. The other half knew. No one talks to their father-in-law in lingerie, giggling like that. I didn't say anything, didn't ask, didn't confront. I just shrank into myself. But my heart started cracking. Tiny fractures no one could see. I felt them, though. After that, Dad came around more. Sometimes early mornings, sometimes late afternoons. When I was at work or just after I'd left. Emily kept lying, smooth, no hesitation. I started tracking his visits, times, signs. I turned into some creep spying on my own wife. And then the worst happened. I caught them. No other way to put it. It was noon. I'd forgotten some blueprints and came home. Rainy day, slick roads. Didn't think twice. Opened the door, living room empty, but Dad's coat was on the rack. I moved quiet, no sound. Then I heard it. Moans. Urgent, coming from our bedroom. I didn't open the door. Couldn't. Just stood there, gripping the frame like I'd crush my own heart. I went back to the truck, sat there till evening. When they came out, I watched. No one saw me. They left like they'd done nothing wrong. That night I confronted Emily. Couldn't take it anymore. She cried, admitted it, but didn't apologize. She just said, "I loved your dad. Before I met you. We had a past. I thought I was over it. But when I saw him again, it all came back." I asked, "Then why'd you marry me?" She went quiet for ages. Then, "Because you're good. I wanted a different life, but I couldn't let go." I smashed the bedside lamp against the wall. Didn't hit her, didn't scream, just didn't know what to do with myself. I packed a bag, ready to leave. But when I got downstairs, Dad was there, blocking the door. He didn't say a word at first, just stared. Then, in a voice soft as a whisper, "If you're a man, you'd leave." She chose me. I couldn't believe my ears. This guy, my own father, said that, like I was the extra piece. I swung at him. First punch missed, second caught his jaw. He didn't fall, just laughed, the cruelest laugh I'd ever heard. I left that night. Rain pouring. No one stopped me, no one called out. I moved into a rental, a cramped room in an old boarding house south of town, windows always whistling with drafts through rotted wood. The landlady was a widow, pushing 80, living quiet with a blind cat. She didn't ask much, just said, "Stay here. Keep it down." I was glad for that. Didn't know how I'd answer if someone asked, "Why are you alone?" I wasn't myself anymore. Mornings, I'd wake up and skip brushing my teeth. Nights, I'd drink cheap beer till I puked blood. Took a job at a mechanic shop. Hard, dirty work no one wanted. Didn't care. Needed something to wear me out so I wouldn't think. Some nights, I dreamed of Emily. Not nightmares. Beautiful dreams. Us holding hands in a pine forest. She'd turn, eyes sparkling, and say, "I'm sorry." I'd wake up, hands empty, pillow cold, the old cat wheezing outside. I missed her. That's what disgusted me most. After everything, I still missed her. Still loved her. Loved someone who'd betrayed me with my own dad. Loved someone who'd lied to me for months. But love, I learned, doesn't listen to reason. It roots itself deep. So deep you think you've yanked it out, but you've only clipped the top. 2 months after I left, word came Emily was pregnant. An old coworker told me, a quiet, decent guy. Called me up, said, "Heard Emily's expecting. You okay?" I laughed. The hollow kind you hear at funerals. Didn't react, didn't curse, didn't cry. Just nodded, though he couldn't see. I knew it wasn't mine. But somewhere inside, it still stung. Like someone stepping on the last piece of me left in her. I started watching them, not creepy stalking, just driving by the old house after work. Saw Dad gardening, Emily hanging laundry. She wasn't the woman I knew anymore. But seeing her pregnant, loose dress, hair tied up, it hurt in a quiet way. I wondered, would that kid grow up not knowing it came from something wrong? Did it deserve that stain? Then one day, everything shifted again. I got a letter, hand-delivered. No sender's address. Slanted, hurried writing. "Daniel, I know I've got no right to write you, but I'm scared. I need to tell someone, and you're the only one I can think of. I'm not sure who the baby's father is. I know I'm wrong, but I don't know if it's his or someone else's. I need you to understand. I don't control this life anymore." I read it over and over. Not sure who made me squint. Didn't dare ask. But that vagueness felt dirty. Like the love I'd given was now just roadside sludge. Emily had someone else besides Dad? I wanted to not care, but my heart wouldn't let me. Some nights I dug through old texts between us, little, pointless things, looking for a moment she'd been real. Found nothing. Just fragments. Then that day came. A neighbor called. Old Carl lived next to my childhood home. His voice shook. "Daniel, you need to get here. Something's happened." I raced back to the house I'd once called home. Cops were there. Ambulance. They wheeled out a stretcher covered in white. I recognized her tangled hair from a distance. Emily. I froze. A cop walked up. "You Daniel?" I nodded. "We need you to testify. George, your father, pushed your wife down the stairs. Signs of violence beforehand." I couldn't speak, didn't cry, didn't yell, just clenched my fists till they bled. In the questioning, they said Dad lost it when he saw the baby didn't look like him. Not white, not blonde, black, obvious. They said he screamed at her. "How many guys you been with?" She backed away, terrified, and he shoved her down the stairs. I had no words to defend him. That man destroyed everything I had. Now he'd taken a life. The day after, it all dissolved into the drizzle of my soul. I stood outside the courthouse, the night wind still cutting through my memories. Cops, witnesses, staring eyes. It all closed off, leaving just emptiness inside me. I didn't speak. Just stood there, like I wanted to take in the full void of a fate that dragged me here. Witnesses at the trial laid out the horror. My dad, a man I'd once admired, if only for his sternness, his silence, had turned into the source of unrelenting pain. They said after seeing the baby's dark skin, he flew into a rage, not just yelling but shoving, sending Emily tumbling down those old stairs. A scream, a groan, then a dead silence swallowing the hallway. I remembered that night, sitting outside the house, staring at an empty sky. Was this fate punishing us for mistakes, for unforgivable betrayals? I thought of Emily, the woman I'd trusted, gone now. I thought of her letter, her shaky words spilling confusion, fear, guilt buried deep. Could love heal a wound that big? At the trial, I said nothing. No accusations, no pleas, just blank eyes and a pounding heart. Didn't know if I should hate or pity. It all lost meaning in the face of something so brutal. A family shattered, a scar that'd never fade. After the hearing, I wandered empty streets, dodging whispers, prying looks. Each step dragged with memories. Emily's laugh, her silences, the way she'd look at me when sadness crept into her words. Now, just shards. Back at my rental, where old books and bitter coffee were my only company, I told myself, maybe this is fate teaching us to let go. But my heart stayed heavy, like endless rain. Days after the trial slipped into quiet. I heard Emily didn't just die physically. Her soul had crumbled, unable to bear the torment of her past. People said in her final hours, she sobbed nonstop, her cries echoing through the cold hospital. The baby, her baby, went to a foster family. That dark-skinned child, a question mark of mistakes, a reminder of a past that couldn't be undone. That night, back in my room, I faced the cracked mirror, wondering if I was still human. Emily, Dad, the baby, they blurred into a cruel picture I couldn't erase. What now? How do you live when all that's left is pain and betrayal? One afternoon, weak sunlight slipped through my window, and I realized something. Some days I'd wake up, see my face in that mirror, and spot a faint glimmer. Fragile hope. Maybe in total loss, we learn to value what's left. I started a journal, not to log pain, but to find myself. Each word, each line, a confrontation with the past, with memories I couldn't shake. In those pages, I wrote about Emily, a girl with a dark history but flashes of warmth, loving two people in a twisted way. About Dad, a man who hurt me but hid his own secrets. About the baby, a symbol of unfixable errors, yet proof life goes on, scars and all. I remembered sleepless nights, rain tapping the window, blending with my sighs. Maybe everyone has weak moments, needing an escape from old wounds. Then I saw it. Escape isn't running. It's facing yourself, your past, the mistakes you can't undo. One day my dad's mom called, someone I barely knew. She said, "Daniel, not everyone can carry love and betrayal's weight. Live for yourself. Don't let yesterday rule tomorrow." Her words, like soft rain, washed some dust from my soul. Could I forgive Dad? Not because he deserved it, but to free myself from resentment's load? Finally, one chilly morning, I met her. We sat in a quiet cafe, piano notes soothing the air. She told me about Dad's younger days, his mistakes, the loneliness after Mom died. I listened, trying to understand, though my heart still wrestled. People aren't simple. We're just lost in an emotional maze. Her words didn't fix everything, but they cracked open a door, showing me a path beyond the dark. A path where I didn't have to stay trapped in yesterday. Where I could see that, despite unchangeable wrongs, life offers chances to heal. Months of reflection later, I started reclaiming myself. I leaned into work, friendships, people who stood by me despite my broken heart. I wrote more, not just journals, but fragments of my soul, sharing with others. Sharing, I found, lightens the load. It's not always easy. Some nights, I'd dream of Emily, her sad smile, dewy eyes. Others, I'd lie awake, wondering if I'd ever forget the tears, the echoes of past screams. Then I realized forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's accepting what happened and living with the scars. One day, walking by the still lake, I met an old woman in a worn sweater, eyes bright like stars. She smiled kindly, asked, "Ever feel like an outsider, son?" I mumbled, "Sometimes, maybe just lost." She said softly, "The lost find their way if they stop to hear their soul." Her words, a dim light, showed me that even a rough path needs pauses. To listen, to heal. I saw that no matter how messy or harsh life gets, it gives you chances to rise. I learned to forgive, not them, but me, so I wouldn't carry pain forever. Could I forget? Number. But everyone deserves a life unchained by yesterday. In time, I found joy in small things, planted flowers on my balcony, tending them like bits of memory. Each bloom reminded me that scars are not, beauty persists. Slowly, I saw that even the darkest past holds flickers of forgiveness and hope. Tiny, but there. I'd never forget Emily, or what happened. But to keep living, I had to let go, forgive. Not just them, but myself. Now, stepping outside, I still feel the chill of rainy nights, lone footsteps on empty streets. But those steps led me to a new me, one who loves, forgives, and knows time heals, however slowly. I'm not saying it's all fine, but I've found some comfort in life. Each day I see truth isn't black or white, just silences and gaps we fill with feeling and hope. Those past pieces linger, scars that won't fade. But they don't have to weigh me down. They're lessons, proof of what I've survived. In those scars I found strength to keep going, stronger, truer, more open to love. I stayed in that town another year. People didn't look at me the same, but no one said it out loud. Here, everyone knows your business but learns to stay quiet. Sometimes to live, sometimes to stay out of it. I kept working at the shop, steady, diligent, like a machine set to not think. The cold metal, oil stench, steady hammer clangs, numb, fitting for someone like me then. Once I saw a young woman pass by with a kid. Light brown skin, big black eyes, grinning wide. My chest tightened. Don't know why, but it reminded me of my own. Not a kid I had. One I imagined. Mine and Emily's. In simple dreams, early marriage hopes, I'd pictured teaching him to kick a ball out back, fishing with Grandpa, seeing myself in his little eyes. But that was stolen, not just by Dad, not just by Emily, by all the lies I'd believed were true. One afternoon, I went back to the old house, not to reclaim anything, just to look. Someone else rented it now. New curtains, strange plants on the porch. But the wooden fence, I'd fixed that as a kid, was still there. I stared at the second floor window, where Emily used to let her hair fall. Memories hit like waves. I didn't cry, just felt a weird void. Like I'd been part of that story, but now I was just watching my own life from outside. I turned away, and for the first time in months, nothing pulled me back. Time passed. I moved to another town, not far, but far enough no one knew me. Got a job at a small garage, fixing old cars, changing oil, sometimes sipping coffee with the owner, Malcolm, a black guy with wise eyes and a warm voice. One day, he asked, "You got family?" I went quiet. Then, soft, "I did." "Not anymore." He didn't pry, just nodded, poured me more coffee. His silence was a gift. In a place like this, the best thing isn't someone understanding you. It's someone who doesn't need to know much to treat you decent. I started writing again. Not journals, short stories, like I was retelling my life through others. One was about a man losing his wife to war, forgiving her killer. Reading it back, I saw it was for me. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's looking at the wound and seeing it's stopped bleeding. I don't know where that kid is. Who took him in? Thought about searching, but stopped. I've got no claim. I'm not his dad. Just a blurry line between a wrong relationship and its fallout. I think about Emily a lot. No anger. Just a gentle ache. Maybe she didn't know how to love right. Or maybe she loved the only way she'd been taught, holding on to what should have slipped away. And Dad? He's in a prison for old-timers. A year after Emily died, he sent a letter. "Daniel, don't know what to say. I'm not the man who raised you anymore. I wrecked everything. If I could trade anything, I'd die instead of her. But life doesn't let you fix it that way. You don't have to forgive. I don't expect it. Just live. Don't end up like me." I read it, set it aside, didn't reply, but I felt lighter. He's still my father, even after the unforgivable. I live alone, but not lonely. I've learned to live with what's left, sometimes wreckage, sometimes a distant stare in a crowd. I fix cars. Write. Play Emily's old songs now and then, just to remember some things were real. No one passes through your life without a mark. But you choose whether to keep it. No kids, no wife, no childhood home. But I've got a life, grayed out, sure, but still mine to repaint if I want. And I do. That spring, I left the old rental, not for money. I just stayed in yesterday too long. That room saw me at my worst. Hours staring at the ceiling, waking from dreams of her voice, rereading her three-line apology till the world caved in. But things move on. I found a little cabin 15 minutes from town. Near Pine Hills, a creek running by. 2 rooms, one to sleep, one to write. I painted the windows, built bookshelves, planted lavender out front. No one knows me here. Not the betrayed husband, the backstabbed son, the guy who lost it all. They just know me as Daniel, the guy who fixes cars in the morning, drinks black coffee at noon, and walks the hills at dusk. I like it that way. I don't want to drag up the old story for anyone anymore. Don't want to say Emily's name out loud. Don't flinch when I hear kids laughing down the street. Not because I've forgotten, because I've gotten used to remembering without it cutting so deep. But life's got a way of not letting you off that easy. One afternoon, early summer, a package showed up. No sender, no name. Just a small cardboard box dropped off at my doorstep. Inside was a photo. A boy, maybe 3 years old, grinning wide, a little mole on his cheek, same spot as mine when I was a kid. Tucked in with it was a scrap of paper. I think you should know he's growing up good. I don't know what happened between you all, but this kid, he's not a mistake. He's a life, one of the few right things in a mess of wrongs. I won't send more. Hope this doesn't hurt you, but helps you see. Life can still grow from anywhere. I sat there, staring at that picture for a long time. The boy had brown skin, black eyes, a smile that lit up his whole face. Didn't need anyone to tell me. He was Emily's, carrying all the confusion, all the screw-ups, and still shining like a quiet apology from the universe. I didn't cry. My hands just shook. No clue who sent it. Maybe the foster family. Maybe a nurse who knew the story. Maybe an old friend of Emily's. Someone she'd spilled her heart to before the end. Didn't matter. Didn't need to track them down. But in that split second, I felt my heart soften. Not to forgive Emily, not to let Dad off. Just to let go. Easy, no clinging. I framed the photo, hung it on the corner of my desk, by the window facing the hills. Sometimes, after finishing a story, I'd glance up and think, maybe one day he'll read what I write. Not knowing who I am, he'll feel something. Real, human. I don't plan to claim I'm his dad. Don't intend to step into his life. But knowing he's out there, it made me forgive myself. People ask, how do you live again after betrayal? I don't think you do, not really. You just live different. Live with the loss, but don't let it swallow you. Live knowing some people shouldn't be loved, but still believing love's worth a shot. Live without hating, without chasing debts. Life collects its own dues, sooner or later. I'm 36 now, still single, still alone. But not the lonely wreck I was. Got a few new friends, folks who don't know my past but like me for me. Got a bookshelf full of stories I've written. Nobody reads them, but they grow me every time I look back. Got quiet mornings when sunlight spills through the window and I brew coffee without my hands trembling. And I've got that photo, not to dwell on mistakes, but to remind me that even from the worst crap, something beautiful can sprout, painful as it is. That summer stretched on, hot and slow. I kept to my routine. Work at the garage, coffee with Malcolm, writing at night. The cabin started feeling less like a hideout and more like a place I belonged. The lavender out front bloomed, purple bursts against the wood, and I'd sit there some evenings watching the sun dip behind the pines, letting my mind drift. But the photo, it stirred something I couldn't shake. I'd catch myself staring at it, tracing that mole with my eyes, wondering what his voice sounded like, what he laughed at. Was he loud like Emily? Quiet like me? Did he kick a ball around or sit with a book? I hated that I cared. Hated that it tugged at me. After everything, her with Dad, the lies, the kid that wasn't mine, why couldn't I just let it stay dead? One night, I grabbed the frame, ready to chuck it in a drawer. Stood there, arm raised, but my hand wouldn't move. Couldn't do it. Sat back down, cracked a beer, and let the damn thing stare back at me. Malcolm noticed I was off. Next day at the garage, he slid a mug my way and said, "You look like you're wrestling ghosts, kid." I smirked. Something like that. "Want to talk?" "Nah, just family stuff." He nodded, didn't push. "Family'll do that. Chew you up, spit you out, but you're still here. That's what counts." He was right. I was still here. Banged up, sure, but breathing. That night, I wrote about it. Not a story, just a mess of words. Poured out the ache, the anger, the stupid little hope that kid brought up. Didn't fix anything, but it felt like lancing a wound. Let some of the poison drip out. Days turned to weeks. I kept working, kept living, but that photo stayed on my desk. Started talking to it sometimes, not out loud, just in my head. "You're okay out there, right? Got someone looking out for you?" Dumb, maybe. But it was something. Then fall hit and things got heavier. Got a call from the prison. Dad had a stroke. Not dead, but bad. Half his body locked up, speech slurred. They asked if I'd visit. I said no. Hung up. But it gnawed at me. That letter he'd sent, short, rough, honest, kept creeping back. "Live. Don't end up like me." Wasn't an apology. Wasn't even close. But it was the most real thing he'd said to me in years. I didn't owe him a damn thing. He'd torched my life, slept with my wife, killed her, left me picking up pieces. So why'd I feel this pull? Took a week to decide. Drove up to the facility on a gray Saturday, hands tight on the wheel the whole way. Didn't know what I'd say. Didn't even know why I was going. He looked old. Smaller than I remembered. Gray hair, thin, face sagging on one side, right arm limp in his lap. Sat in a wheelchair, staring out a window when they wheeled him in. Didn't look at me till I sat down. Then those deep well eyes locked on mine. "Daniel," he rasped, voice thick, slow. I nodded. Didn't say anything. We sat there, quiet, for what felt like hours. Just the hum of the place, distant footsteps, a TV blaring somewhere. Finally, he spoke again. "Didn't think you'd come." Didn't think I would either. He grunted, half a laugh, half a cough. Fair. I looked at him. This shell of a man who'd raised me, who'd torn me apart. Wanted to ask why her, why me? But the words stuck. He beat me to it. I messed up. Everything. Her, you, all of it. "Yeah," I said, flat. "You did." His good hand twitched, like he wanted to reach out but couldn't. "Ain't asking you to fix me. Too late for that. Just don't let it kill you, too." I stared at him. It almost did. He nodded, slow, like he knew. "You're tougher than me." Always were. Didn't feel tough. Felt hollowed out. But I didn't argue. We didn't say much after that. I left 20 minutes later, no goodbye, just a nod. Drove home with my head buzzing. Not lighter, not heavier, just different. Seeing him like that, broken, human, didn't erase what he'd done. Didn't make me love him again. But it snapped something loose. Like a knot I'd been tugging at for years finally gave. Winter came, cold and sharp. I kept to myself mostly, fixing cars, writing, tending the lavender. Wilted now, but I'd replant come spring. The photo stayed put. Kid's smile became a fixture, like the hills outside my window. Started thinking about him more. Not as Emily's kid, not as Dad's mess, but as his own person. Wondered if he'd ever hear about me. If he'd care. One night, snow falling thick, I wrote him a letter. Not to send, just to get it out. "Hey, don't know your name, don't know where you are, but I hope you're good. Hope you've got people who love you, who don't let you down. I'm not your dad, never will be. But you're tied to me somehow, and that's okay. Live big, all right? Don't carry what you don't have to." Folded it up, stuck it in a drawer. Felt dumb after, but lighter too. Spring rolled in slow. Hills turned green, creek swelled. Malcolm threw a barbecue at the garage. First time I'd laughed hard in a while, ribs in hand, beer cold. Felt normal. Not fixed, just steady. One morning, I was out back, digging up soil for the lavender, when a guy pulled up. Young, maybe 25, driving a beat-up Chevy, needed an oil change. We got to talking while I worked. Said his name was Ryan, lived a couple towns over. Mentioned he'd adopted a kid a year back. Little boy, 3 now, full of energy. Got a picture? I asked, casual. He pulled out his phone, scrolled, showed me. Same grin, same mole. My wrench slipped, clanged on the concrete. He laughed. Yeah, he's a handful. Keeps us up all night. I nodded, throat tight. Looks happy. He is. Luckiest thing we ever did, taking him in. I finished the job quick, hands shaky. Didn't say anything, didn't need to. He drove off, oblivious, and I stood there staring at the empty road. Didn't chase him down, didn't ask for more. Just let it sink in. That kid was okay. Better than okay. Back inside, I sat at my desk, looked at the photo. Felt a twist in my chest. Not pain, not regret, just something soft. People talk about closure like it's a door slamming shut. This wasn't that. More like a window cracking open, letting a breeze through. I didn't need to meet him, didn't need to know his name. Knowing he was out there, laughing, living, that was enough. Summer came again. I turned 37. Malcolm gave me a day off, said I worked too damn hard. Spent it hiking the hills, alone, sun warm on my back. Thought about Emily up there. Not the end, the fights, the lies, the fall, but the start. Her laugh in Portland, her hand in mine by the lake. Thought about Dad too. Not the prison cell, but the fishing trips, his rough hand on my shoulder. They'd wrecked me. Both of them. But they'd made me too in their own messed up ways. I didn't forgive them. Not fully. Didn't have to. But I stopped fighting them in my head. Let them sit there, quiet. Part of the story, but not the whole damn book. Back home, I brewed coffee, sat on the porch. Watched the lavender sway, bees buzzing around it. Pulled out that letter I'd written the kid, read it again, smiled a little. Life's a mess, always will be. But it's mine. And for the first time in years, I didn't mind it so much. I don't know what's next. Don't have big plans. Never been good at those. Just keep going, day by day, fix cars, write stories, maybe plant more flowers. The kid's out there, growing up. Dad's in his cell, fading slow. Emily's gone, but not really. She's in the quiet moments, the ones I don't push away anymore. And me? I'm here. Not whole, not broken. Just Daniel. A guy who's been through hell and come out the other side still kicking. Maybe that's enough?